JUnit 5 video playlist. My name is Rex Jones II and I will be your instructor. You can follow me on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and GitHub. All of the source code from this playlist will be on GitHub. You can also follow me on my website at rexjones2.com if you want to see my books, blogs, and other videos. In this tutorial, you will learn how to execute JUnit 4 with JUnit 5. Next is how to write JUnit 5 test scripts. After writing the test scripts, we will run the test scripts in Jupyter. Then use thread.sleep with Selenium and Java. There is a difference between thread.sleep and timeouts. So for number 5, we will dive into timeouts in JUnit 5, followed by web driver wait in Selenium and minimizing browsers in Selenium. For number 8, I will demonstrate how to tag in JUnit 5 and filter in JUnit 5. Next is executing packages and classes. After the execution, we will write nested classes, then use extension in JUnit 5. The last 3 videos will compare PDF files in Java. Use Mockito with JUnit 5 and mock arrays. Let me introduce JUnit 5 before we execute JUnit 4 with JUnit 5. So for starters, what is JUnit 5? JUnit 5 is a test framework for Java that consists of different components from 3 sub-projects. Those 3 projects are JUnit Platform, JUnit Jupyter, and JUnit Vintage. The JUnit Platform provides a foundation for the testing framework. It is performed on the JVM, which means Java Virtual Machine, which loads Java bytecode, executes Java bytecode, but before it executes Java bytecode, it verifies the Java bytecode. The JUnit Jupyter project is a combination of the programming model and extension model. We use it for writing our tests and extensions in JUnit 5. The purpose of JUnit Vintage is to design our tests in older versions of JUnit and also write our tests in older versions of JUnit. When it comes to the test engine, each project has a different responsibility. The JUnit platform is responsible for defining the test engine for creating our test framework. However, JUnit Jupyter and JUnit Vintage supplies our test engine for running the test scripts. The difference between JUnit Jupyter and JUnit Vintage is JUnit Jupyter runs JUnit 5 test scripts, while JUnit Vintage runs JUnit 3 and JUnit 4 test scripts. In addition to creating our test framework and executing our test, JUnit 5 has 4 core functions like other test frameworks. Right now, we see creating and executing our test scripts. The test framework also generates test reports, generates logs, read test data, and write test data. If you want more information, you can go to the website at JUnit.org/JUnit5. We see user guide, Java doc, code, and issues, Q&A. You can also support JUnit. Let's go to the user guide. And the table of contents show an overview, writing test, migrating from JUnit 4, running test, extension model, advanced topics, API evolution, contributors, release notes, and appendix. That's it for the introduction of JUnit 5. Now, let's get ready to execute JUnit 4 test scripts with JUnit 5. The plan is to show you the pom.xml file that includes the JUnit 4 dependency. By the end of this video, you will learn how to create the test script using Selenium with JUnit 4. Then add the JUnit 5 dependency. Finally, we will execute the JUnit 4 test script with JUnit 5. Let's go to IntelliJ and view the JUnit 4 dependency. In the IDE, we're going to start by looking at the pom.xml file. So in IntelliJ, we see the pom.xml file. When I scroll it down, we see the group ID and artifact ID with the version of 4.13. Group ID and artifact ID both show JUnit. I also added the Selenium Java dependency. Now with Selenium, we're going to use that to automate the application while JUnit 4 is going to test the application. Our application is Selenium Playground from LambdaTest. The page is simple form demo, and the test script will enter a message like JUnit 5 is an awesome test framework. Then click the Get Checked Value button. The last step is to verify the message is correct. Let's go ahead and create our test script. And we're going to use Selenium and JUnit 4. In the IDE, I have a class called JUnit 4 test. Let's start by writing WebDriver at before class. At before class is a package from org.JUnit4. Now, this annotation executes before each class. Now, I'm going to write public static void. The name of the method is before class. I will also import WebDriver. Then write a print statement that says execute before each class. The print statement is just going to explain what the annotation performed. Next is the annotation of before from JUnit 4. We write that with the same kind of prefix of @ followed by before. Now, at before is an annotation which executes before each test method. Now I write public void before method, followed by a print statement. Now, before the print statement, let's go ahead and create an instance from Selenium by writing driver equals new Chrome driver. Bingo. I'm going to also maximize the window. I like making the window big as it can be. Driver.manage.window.maximize. Now, let's write the print statement, which describes what this annotation performed. Execute before each test method. There are going to be 2 test methods. And you see how this annotation is read? That's because it has not been imported. So far, we see before class from JUnit, and we see WebDriver from Selenium, and we see Chrome driver. Now, when I import before, we will see before from JUnit. Now, with the two test method, one test method will verify the simple form demo page, and the other test method will be a print statement. First test method will start with @test. @test is also from JUnit. @test is a way to identify the following code will be a test method. So let's write public void test simple form demo. And let me move this up some. Now, also we see test is written in red. That's because we have not imported. Now, for now, I will only add a print statement by writing first test method. Copy this first test method, then paste. And I'm going to change first test method to second test method. Also change the name of the method from test simple form demo to execute JUnit test method. So the last two annotations will be after. And right now we see the IntelliSense shows after from JUnit, and also it shows after class from JUnit. Let's first write after. This after class, this after annotation, will have a method name of after method with the print statement to describe what it performs. And the print statement will say execute after each test method. I'm going to also write driver.quit. And within this here, I'm going to also insert a new line after the print statement. When it comes to after class, I'm going to write public static void after class. And the method name also kind of describe what it performs. So for the print statement, I'm going to write execute after each class. Now, for the first test method, when I scroll up, we load the browser by writing driver.get. Now, I must paste in the URL. Therefore, let's go to the AUT, application under test, copy the URL, then go back to the IDE and paste in the method. Now, let's find the element. And the first element is this input box. So I'm going to right click, select inspect, and we see the ID attribute has a value of user message. To find this message, I'm going to write input because that's the tag name of input, followed by 2 square brackets @ID because that's the attribute name equals 2 singular quotes. Then the value, which is user hyphen message, bingo. And we see 1 of 1 that shows that we have found a unique value. Copy the information, go back to IntelliJ, and I'm going to write driver.findElement because that's the first step with automation. It's the first find the element, then we perform an action on the element. So driver.findElement by XPath. And within the XPath, double quotes, I'm going to paste in the value. Now, to make more room, I'm going to skip a line, then write dot, send keys. And the keys we're going to send is the message. Let me bring this back some because the message is going to be pretty long. I'm going to write the same message that I wrote in the AUT, and that was JUnit 5 is an awesome test framework. Bingo. Now, the next element is get check value, and it's a button. So I'm going to inspect, and we see the button as the tag name, followed by ID attribute with the value of show input. To find this information, let's write hashtag show input, and we also see 1 of 1. Now, back in IntelliJ, I'm going to write the code to first find the element, and that is driver dot find element. This time I write by ID, then paste in the value. And the action that we perform after finding the button is click. Now we have found the button and clicking the button. The next step is to verify the message. So let's inspect the message. And it has an ID value of message. So let me copy and also paste, and we see that we have found the element because the DOM shows a yellow background, which indicates we found the element. Now, back in IntelliJ, I'm going to write driver.findElement by ID, and the value is message. Now, to get the message, Selenium provides a method called getText. I'm going to assign the value to string actual message. Bingo. The string expected message is the same thing we wrote. So to save time and also to make sure I don't misspell something, I'm going to copy and paste the value. The last step for this test is to verify the actual message equals the expected message. So we start by writing assert. Dot assert equals. The first parameter is the message we want to see if the assertion fails. Therefore, it will only show up if the actual assertion fails. If it passes, we do not see this message. And this message will be actual and expected messages do not match. Bingo. I'm going to also put this on the next line just to make it look more readable, and also just in case the screen, so the screen can show all of the information. Now, the next part, which is the second parameter, is the expected message. The third parameter is the actual message. At this point, I can go ahead and run the class, and let's see if the test passed, and also verify what the console shows us. The console should show each print statement from the annotations. First test pass, the second test pass. Now let's view the console. The first print statement shows execute before each class. Next is execute before each test method, followed by first test method, and we see the first test method, which verifies the actual message equals expected message. It's gonna show the next statement is execute after each test method. The next print statement Well, before the next print statement, let's kind of dive into this right quick. You see how this print statement prints before the test method, and this print statement is after the test method. On the next section, we're going to see the same type of information for the second message. That's the power of JUnit 5. Now, as I scroll down, we see the same print statement before the second test method and the same print statement after the test method. Execute before each test method, which shows up before the first one. And we also see execute after each test method for the first and the second test method. That means that if we want some kind of action to be performed, we can do that in that particular annotation. Now, for the last annotation, we see execute after each class. That's it for JUnit 4 execution. Now, let's execute the same test script with JUnit 5. In the IDE, I'm going to the pom.xml file and start by commenting out the JUnit 4 dependency. And watch what happens when I comment out this JUnit 4 dependency. The next step, I'm going to load the Maven changes. Then go to the JUnit 4 test class. Notice we see the annotations: before class, before, test, even the assert method, test, after, and after class. Each one of these are red. Also, the import statement should be red. Yes, the JUnit import is red. Now, recall from the introduction, JUnit Vintage is a sub-project for JUnit 5, and it has a test engine. The test engine runs JUnit 3 and JUnit 4 test scripts. So that's all we need to execute JUnit 4 is the JUnit Vintage. So let's go to the MVN repository. Then type JUnit Vintage Engine. Select this dependency. Look at the description. The description, it shows a thin layer on top of JUnit 4 to allow running vintage tests based on 3.8 and JUnit 4. Okay, so let's grab version 5.10. Copy. And I will paste this information in the pom.xml file. And I really don't need this comment, so I'm going to remove the comment. Now, load the Maven changes for JUnit Vintage Engine 5.10. After loading the Maven changes, let's go to JUnit 4 test. And notice all the red has been removed from the import statements and also the annotations. All of them, even the assert. Okay, so now when I run, both test scripts should pass again. And also, we should see the same information in the console. Pass, and it passed again. Now let's view the console again. Execute before each class. That means if we put code in that annotation, that code will execute before each class. Now we see the same print statements. Execute before each test method, then it executes the test method, followed by execute after each test method. Next is execute before each test method all over again. That means the code in that annotation will execute and perform before each test method. That's good. Now we see second test method. And this final test method execution is after. And that code will execute after each test method. But for now, we only have print statements. Then we see execute after each class. That's it for executing a JUnit 4 test with JUnit 5. Next, we will write a test script using JUnit 5. If you would like to learn more, then make sure to follow the blogs at https://LambdaTest.com/blog and also community.LambdaTest.com. In addition to the blogs, you can earn a certification at www.LambdaTest.com/certifications. Get educated, get recognized.